Hello and welcome to the first video of a series called How to Dominate in Magic Arena. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to show you how to be the best Magic Arena player out there. You are going to dominate noobs. You are going to make them cry. You're going to make them wish they never downloaded this game. And I am going to show you how. So who am I, you might ask? I am David. I've been playing Magic for since about Invasion, and when this game first came out, I was super interested, but I didn't have a whole lot of time to do it. But now I have more time on my hands, so I'm going to show you the basics of Magic Arena and how to get started. It's a simple game, but the mastery of it is what takes you a while. Easy to pick up, hard to master. So when you first start off, you're going to be at this beautiful home screen here, and you're going to see a lot of stuff, and you're going to be like, oh my god, what is all this shit? I'm going to help you. I'm going to point you out in the right direction, get you started down the path to domination. So your beginning starts here. There'll be a little tutorial to play, and then after you play the tutorial, you will be right here. And so I'm not going to go over the tutorial and things. I will explain how to play the game and that kind of stuff. But if you want to do the tutorial, I suggest you kind of do it on your own, and it will help you. But we're going to go over the more advanced stuff once you've been done having your hand held through the beginning. So you're going to start here. You've got your home screen. You've got all this on the side right here. This is different events that are going on, like ranked drafts. And what drafts are is, so you will take one card out of a pack, and then it will switch cards, and then you'll take another card, and you're going to build cards out of a bunch of different packs. So it's not going to be out of the normal collection that you would have gotten throughout playing the game. It is a lot of fun, and it adds a lot of variety for people who've been playing for a while and just want a way to experience a more randomized game. So the next thing we're going to go to is your profile page, and this represents you. As you can see, Nocturne right here. I am doing so amazing at bronze. I mean, look at that. You can't get any better in the rankings than bronze. I mean, that is top tier right there. No, but I'm just joking. But we are going to do a series where I'm going to start from bronze, and I'm going to move all the way up to mythic. But that's not going to be this one. This one's just starting off. So this is your page. You can change your avatar. See, there's a lot of options. I like Tezzeret, but I think the other one that I might do is Garruk.
I'm gonna hunt you down.
Garruk's pretty cool. I wish they actually did those voice emotes in the game.
Strange and magnificent work.
They do not do that. Like when you say something in the game, it just comes off as a speech bubble. But it is pretty cool. We'll switch it to Garruk. Then you have a pet. So a pet is just kind of something that sits off to the side of the screen. I mean, doesn't really do anything per se, but it just kind of sits there, and we'll put the Fey Fox. So mastery. Mastery is when you first start the game. Your mastery is not going to look like mine. You'll have a different one when we get to the mastery tree. But what this is this is sort of like your battle royale, good old Fortnite-y sort of, rewards for playing. As you level up, you get different rewards as it goes on, and obviously if you buy the bottom one, you get better rewards. If you go to the top one, you get, your standard pack every once in a while, which is kind of cool. They give that to you for free. You can never beat free, so that's cool. The mastery tree. So let's go ahead and explain that. Like now, once you get out the original or past the other mastery, you're going to get this. And so it's just kind of cosmetics for your cards. It makes your cards look cooler. But when you first start, yours is not going to look like this. Yours is going to be a big circle. And you're going to see a bunch of different colors. Red, blue, green, black, white. And you're going to be able to pick those colors. And when you pick one of those colors, you're going to have a little sphere just like this. You're going to put it on that color, and you're going to buy it. And when you buy it, you get a pre-made deck that has cards that are suited for that color. Now, if red is here and green is here, In the middle, you'll be able to, after unlocking both of those and going down the ways of getting the cards for each of those, at the very end, you'll be able to get a deck that is both colors. So it'll be multicolored. It'll be red and green, blue and black, that sort of thing. So definitely want to play through, get your mastery decks. I've already unlocked all that. But they do give rare cards in there, so it kind of helps you move on and get a bigger supply of cards, which is never a bad thing. You always want to have the biggest amount of cards that you can, especially when you're free to play. You want to take advantage of all the small stuff. So now we'll go to the store, and this is going to be your main hub to buy stuff. So just like in Hearthstone, they have a store for you to buy the packs out of. Right here, you can buy these anthologies, and these are cards that are not in any set, and they can only be used in a historic format, which we'll go over what formats are in a second. And the rest are just kind of cosmetic stuff. So, cool if you want to do it. Doesn't really catch my fancy. Like, I wouldn't pay for any of the cosmetic stuff. So these are the gems. These are your premium currency, obviously. You see it, and you buy it for real life money. You can go up to 20,000. 20,000, I believe, will buy you the highest amount of packs. Yeah, 18,000 gives you a couple to spare. And now the packs work just like Hearthstone. So in essence, you go to the store. You can buy any of the packs that you see here. After the first one pack, you can only buy them in increments, and they only can be bought with the gems. So 90 packs gives you like 2 free mythics and some extra packs, which is kind of cool. We're going to buy a pack, and so this is your gold, and this is your currency you just get for playing the regular game. Normally I wouldn't buy packs. I'd rather do the draft, and I'll explain to you why I do that. But for right now, we'll buy a pack just so you can kind of see what it's like. So you spend your free currency about every day. You should be getting a pack if you did it this way. You get 1,000 gold about a day for doing all the quests or whatever. So here's you go to the packs. You go from store to packs, and then your packs here. You click it, and then you are going to be greeted with the cards that you get. Now you saw that card pop up and move away. So what it is every time you open a pack, one of these is going to light up. And when you get to the very end, you get a wild card. And so what wild cards are is they can be spent on any uncommon in the game. Now this is your other one. This is your bigger one. This is the Mac Daddy. You want this one the most if you can. So this is going to be where your rare cards are. And sometimes you'll get lucky and this will switch to mythic. And so for every pack you open, you're going to see one light up. And then when they all light up, you get the wild card. And so you're really hoping for mythics here, and that's awesome when it does happen. And so these are you see I got a wild card. You can get them just as a pack card as well. So these are my commons, my uncommon. And now we'll flip it over, and come on, mythic. Oh, there we go, right on stream. That's a cool one to get on stream. Gideon Blackblade, Planeswalker, legendary. Awesome cards. And so as soon as I'm done explaining this, I'll go over each type of card, and we'll talk about what they do and how they're played. And then we'll probably play a quick game versus somebody to give you an idea of how the flow goes. But Planeswalkers are awesome, and anytime you get a mythic, you should be super excited. So that does that. So you can go to the store, and there's bundles. Sometimes they bundle things together. The avatars, like we were talking about, where you can change your avatar. I changed to Gideon, or Garuk, but you can change to any of these. You can buy them for 3,000 of gold or 500 in the gems. They're kind of cool. Like I said, I would prefer it if, like, when you did an emote, they actually did the speech that you get when you change them, but they don't. So it's just more of a portrait thing at the bottom of your screen. And so these are the card backs, which these are pretty cool. I like these. I haven't bought any, but they look pretty cool. I can dig them. The pets, like I said, I could never imagine buying this stupid thing to sit on the side of the thing. I mean, it's kind of pointless. Like, I don't get it. I guess it's cool if you like that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about formats now. So historic format. Basically, we'll go into decks because I kind of have to show you the cards to really explain what that format is. So we're just going to go into a deck I made. And so now historic format allows for any one of the expansions. So it puts the ones that you can actually use right now in standard format up here. So these are all ones that can be used in standard format. Now, there are different ones that cannot be used in standard format, different sets that can't be. So let's go back to the packs and we'll show you that. So, like you'll see these ones right here and they're highlighted in silver. And that lets you know that you can play these in standard format. These are the ones right now where you can play it, and you can play it ranked in any format really. Now you'll see these ones in bronze in the back and you'd be like, well, God, what are those for? And I really didn't know when I first started too, so I was like, oh, well, I want to buy packs of M19, and you know, Dominaria looks cool, so I want to buy some packs of that, and Ixalan, and you know, and I was super excited about that. Well, I mean, I've been out of Magic for a while, and so when I played, I mean, I can't remember if there was a standard format or not. I mean, when they did tournaments, it was just kind of like, you know, whatever you got, as long as it's not super banned, then it was good to go. But this is obviously plays in the standard format, which works how Magic in card shops works in standard tournaments today, where they have a set that rotates out. And as far as I know, there is no modern format, so modern would like allow these other ones to be played, but right now it's just standard and historic. So you'll see the copper ones, they are for historic format only. That means you cannot play these in ranked. So do not buy these unless you just want to play in the historic and you're not worried about playing in ranked. Because if you get a full set of these and then you're like, oh, well, I want to play ranked and I want to get my rank up, well, you can't use them. They can only be used in historic. So these are the ones that can currently be played in rank in standard format. Now, when we're talking about buying, I'm not made of money, and I would imagine a lot of you out there are probably not made of money either. And so, so you're going to want to be effective in how you spend your money. So when you see the tail end of this, okay, and you see these last two ones, and there are great cards in Ravnica. That's kind of the sad part. But how hard you want to invest in the end of these right here is up to you. But eventually, these ones will get shifted out. So say you spent just all your money and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna blow it out and I'm gonna get Ravnica and Guilds of Ravnica. When this eventually gets shifted out because Theros comes out, you will in essence have a whole set that can only be used in historic format, which kind of sucks. I mean, it depends how you look at it. Like I said, if you're not big on ranked or standard, then it's not a big deal. But if you bought this in the intentions of playing in standard, that can kind of hurt the wallet. So I like to focus on the front three because I'm pretty sure that they're not going to get rotated out very quickly. And even then, I'll have enough time to build the other sets that I won't have to worry about it. So it's a good idea to focus more on the front end than the back end. But if there are cards that you want in there, I mean, I still have cards in there. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of good cards in there. But I just don't focus on buying the bulk of that set. I mostly focus on the front, and then if I need cards, I'll use my wild cards to buy what I need out of this. All right, and so we've talked about that. Now let's talk about like where you see the formats in the deck. First of all, when you hit play, you're going to see the different formats. So you can play against the bots, which is kind of cool. You can play the standard ranked, which is, like I said, standard is the ones using the sets that I showed you. And so this is the only one that's really going to give you ranks. So where you see bronze, like you get bronze, you can move up the ranks this way. Now, you can play. And I believe just playing allows you to use any format. It's not really particular about that. You will only go up against people, I believe, with historic if you go into play. So if you have cards that are historic, then you will only be matched with players that have cards that are historic. And so then you also have drafts. And so drafts are where you pass around the booster pack. You get you make a deck out of pretty much random cards out of a pack, and you pretty much pick cards till you can't pick them anymore. So they give you 3 packs of cards, and you go and you select one card, and then it changes, and you select another card. And so you're basically trying to make the best deck you can out of what you were given. It's cool. It's what I like to play the most. It kind of adds a little bit of flavor to it. So let's go up here and now let's talk about decks. Okay? So say if you want to make a deck for historic, you need to go in here and select it. See? So you can change how your decks are set when you're making the decks, and I'll show you that. But for right now, we're just going to talk about how you find the decks when you make them, okay? So you go down here. Pauper is where you can only play with commons and uncommons. You can't use your rares. You can't use your mythics. It's very cool. I mean, I love the different formats. It kind of adds different flavors to the game, so it doesn't become stagnant. Brawl is amazing. Brawl, I'll go ahead and open up a Brawl deck really quick. So what Brawl is you will, in essence, you will select one commander, and that commander is your go-to guy. If you hit the top button up here, you see that plus on the side, it will only show you commanders you can use for your deck. And so you place your commander up there, and he becomes kind of like your mascot, your go-to guy. So in essence, it can never be killed or exiled. If it's killed or exiled, it just goes to the side. It costs increase by 2 colorless, which we'll go over cost of cards and how that works. But for right now, it goes up 2. So just remember that. Like, it's definitely not you get to play endlessly and there's no consequences for dying. The cost goes up, and about 2 times into it dying, and it really becomes hard to start casting them. I mean, it becomes very mana intensive. So you want to be selective on how you use it and when you cast it. But the nice thing is it's not gone permanently. It doesn't go into the graveyard. So that's pretty cool. So and also another interesting thing about Brawl is you can only have 1 of any card in your deck. So no, you can't stock up on that Ajani's Pride Mate. You can't have 4 of them. You can only have 1 of each card. So you kind of want to add things that make sense in your deck, but just remember that you're only going to get 1 of that card. So I wouldn't revolve your deck around a strategy involving combos of cards a lot of times, because you are likely not going to get that card. Because think of it, you got a 1 in 60 chance. So mostly where your combos come into play is making sure that everything in your deck sort of has synergy with your commander, because that's going to be the one person that you can guarantee, or the one card you can always guarantee you're going to get. So interesting format to play in. The only problem with this format, and this is kind of like, you're like, what the hell, Magic, like, get your shit together, is you can only play it on Wednesday, which is kind of like, what the fuck, like, Wednesday, really? Like, almost everyone's got lives and jobs, and Wednesday is not a very convenient time, but it is what it is. So now we're going to go into the deck. So you just come in here and you're like, well, I just want to play a standard deck. I don't know if I want to go into that other stuff yet. So you select standard, and you see this plus sign. That's how you're going to make your first deck. And so you're going to see all these cards, and you're going to be like, oh my god, you mean I got to sort through all this crap? I just want to get to green. No, they do have the indicators up here. You press your green. You're going to be shown all greens, or anything that has to do with green. So if there's green in the casting cost, it will be there. And now you're still like, oh my god, but now I got to go through, and how the hell am I going to find my creature? And I'm looking for a spell, and I can't find the spell, and Jesus Christ, I got to sort through all this crap. If you go into here, this is an advanced filter, so you can change it. You can change it from creature to planeswalk to instant to sorcery to enchantment to artifact to land to commanders. And then you can also go basic lands, common, uncommon, rare, and mythic rare. So you can do it by the actual rarity. You can do it by the type of card. You can do it by the set. If you have a certain set, like you're like, I need a green card from Throne of Eldraine. Well, Throne of Eldraine, green card. There you go. Simple as that. Makes it super easy. All right, you can do it by the cost. You're like, well, I need some high beaters in my deck, and they need to be green, and they need to be from Throne of Eldraine, and I need creatures. There you go. And then once you're done, hey, look right there it is. That's everything that fits that filter. So that's an easy way to kind of sort through your stuff. And there's also another way, but you're like, God, but that doesn't help me either. I need something that allows me to destroy creatures. And I don't want to sit here and scroll through every single sorcery if I hit sorcery, or every instant if I hit instant. What you can do is you can go up here in this handy dandy thing, and if you type in any word in this game that is on a card, it can search it by just that title. So we're going to type lifelink. So lifelink is a creature ability. So you type that in, and bam, look at that. All the creatures that have lifelink in it. So that makes going through, if you're making a certain deck based off a certain strategy, like lifelink, for say, like there are some that get +1/+1 per time you heal. You know, so it just makes it an easy way to find certain combo cards that you're looking for your deck by just what's written on the card itself. And so now we're gonna go through and talk about like the cards themselves, because like you're probably asking, well, okay, we have an idea of how to search for things, but I have no idea what any of this stuff does. And I see creature and planeswalkers and instants and sorceries, and my God, that's a lot of crap. Like, so we're going to go through each of them at a time. So we're going to talk about creatures first. So creatures, they are your mainstay. They're kind of like your army. So you can imagine yourself as a general. You have 20 life. Your opponent has 20 life. And your creatures are your minions, your peons that you send out there to go and die so you can win. And so now we're going to talk about the stats on one. We're going to start with something really simple, right? Because we don't want to go into the abilities of cards yet. We're just going to talk about like the basic, the most vanilla card that we can get. So Sanctuary Cat. So if you look at the top here, you're going to see that there is this white symbol, and you're going to be like, well, man, what's that little sun thing about? Well, that is dictated by your lands. So lands are what you use as a resource. That's how you pay for things in this game, because everything's got a cost. So you see the little sun here? That's representative of white. Now let's go to black. Black is represented by the little skull. Ooh, so hardcore. Death and destruction and all that stuff. And now green is represented by a tree, like the leaves and all that fun stuff. And red, fire, is going to be represented by mountains, the red fireball. And islands, or blue, is going to be represented by the water drop. So it all kind of keeps to a sense of elements, you know what I'm saying? Like the fire, the water, the earth, the black, the white. And so each of these cards have, like I said, this is how you pay for them. You pay for creatures, enchantments, anything that you're spending, anything that you're doing in this game is going to be reliant off having lands played. So let's go back and let's talk about that creature again. Let's find that worthless straight Sanctuary Cat. So you see the one right up here, the single sun. That means you need one planes to play this. And so it is a 1/2 if you see it down here. So 1 is the amount of damage it deals, and 2 is the amount of damage it can take. It tells you what type of creature it is near the bottom. And this right here, this explains what type of card it is. If it's common, it's going to be black. If it's uncommon, it's going to be silver. If it is rare, it's going to be gold. And if it's mythic, it's going to be a sort of orange. So now let's talk about something that has just more than one cost and does maybe a little bit more than that. So let's move down to a Johnny's Primate. This is a good one to do because we've got some abilities here, and we've got a different cost. And so you're thinking, well, okay, I know that this sun symbol means that I need to pay a sun or a plains, but what does that 1 right there mean? Well, that 1 means that you can use any mana for that 1, but the sun symbol has to always be a plains. It always has to be a white land card. So you could play a swamp for the 1, you could pay a mountain for the 1, you could pay a island for the 1, you could pay a forest for the 1. And so we're going to talk to them more or less than, so I'm not confusing you with mountains and swamps and stuff. We're just going to call it black, and we're going to call it mana, okay? Because that's how it's kind of referred to in the game as well. So you can use any color mana. Red for the mountains, black for the swamps, blue for the islands, white for the plains. Doesn't matter. It just has to be 1 mana of any color. And then the other mana of the color, the plains, has to be white. So it has to be a white mana. So now you're going to see a ability down here. And whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on a Johnny's Primate. So now what that means is you see that 1/1, well, that goes directly onto your creature to increase the attack and defense of that creature. So it can go up to a 3/3, you gain another life, it goes up to a 4/4, it's always getting added by 1 and 1. So this is really good because eventually this can get to be a super high damage and attack creature card if you keep gaining life. Now let's talk about something that's less explanatory, okay? Because this kind of explains itself. It's like, well, when you gain life, this is what's going to happen. Let's talk about something like this. You're going to see it right here. It says Defender. It says Sacrifice Resolute Watchdog. Target creature you control gains indestructible till end of turn. Whenever you have a question on what the card does, I can't move my pointer over because it's going to make it go. But if you look to the right side of the extended picture of the card, you'll see that it explains it. What Defender is. Defender, a creature with Defender cannot attack. Effects that indestructible. Effects that say destroy, don't destroy a permanent with indestructible. And if it's a creature, it cannot be destroyed by damage. So, anytime you have a question about what a card does, a lot of times, if it's got a name like Defender or Indestructible, it will have an explanation to the side of the card, letting you know what that ability does. Now, we've talked about creatures, and that's all fun and games, so you mean you just send creatures out the entire time? No. There is a lot more to this game other than that. So let's talk about, we're going to go to the next type of card, which is a Planeswalker. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go to enchantments because they kind of are hand in hand to a degree. So an enchantment is, it is played like a spell. Now, spells only happen when you cast them and then they're done. Enchantments affect the game as long as they are on the field. They cannot be removed. They can only be removed by a spell. So a spell or a creature ability can remove an enchantment, but you cannot be attacked. They cannot attack your enchantment. That is the only 2 ways to destroy enchantments, and they affect the game as long as they are in play. And the only way to remove them is, like I said, through a certain ability, creature card, planeswalker, or spells can remove them. But they can't be attacked, and they don't go away unless somebody removes them. So they do certain things to affect the field. Like if you see this, each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell per turn. So it costs 1 of your planes to cast it, and when this stays on the field, that means both you and your enemy cannot cast more than 1 spell per turn. That might be good if you have a very creature-centric deck and you're hoping to shut them down. But like I said, each one of these enchantments affect the board in a certain way, and they do not go away. Now let's talk about a different type of enchantment, because this is an overall. It sits on the side of the board. Let's talk about enchanting creatures. So you can do the same thing. You can put enchantments on creatures, and once again, they do not go away until the creature is killed or a player, you or them, removes it. So this right here, pacifism. This is a enchantment that you want to put on their creature. And so what it does, enchant creature. Enchanted creature cannot attack or block. So you pay the mana cost, you pay 1 mana of any color, and then a plains or a white mana, and you can cast this on their creature, and that creature can no longer attack or block. Very good, very powerful. If they spend a lot of mana, and they put down this huge hulking creature that you're worried is going to destroy you in 1 turn, you lay this puppy on it, and unless they can remove this enchantment or get rid of it, their creature is rendered useless. Now let's talk about a different type of enchantment. So we got enchantments that affect their creatures, but we also have enchantments that affect our creature. So for 1 plains, you can enchant creature. When glaring Aegis enters the battlefield, tap target creature and opponent controls. So you're getting an almost instant sort of spell. Now this does not stay forever. It is a one-time effect. So when it comes onto the field, you tap that creature, which means that creature cannot attack or block, but it is not a permanent thing. Their creature will untap at the end of your phase. So you have abilities that when they come in, they do something, but they only last for that 1 moment. And then you get to the enchant. And now you'll know when you've reached the part that's probably going to stay forever, because it will say enchanted creature, which means as long as this creature is enchanted, gets +1/+3. So that's a good buff. So not only are you getting what amounts to be a sort of control spell for a turn, but you are also getting a buff to your creatures. That is awesome. There are, like I said, enchantments that are good for you and that are bad for your opponents. And you can go through and see what each one does. This one's really good. We'll talk about this one because this is something we haven't talked about yet. And so this is an enchantment removal. And so what this does is when Prison Realm enters the battlefield, exile target creature or planeswalker and opponent controls until Prison Realm leaves the battlefield. When Prison Realm enters the battlefield, scry 1. So we're saying, what's scry 1 again? If you look off to the right, you're going to see scry 1 lets you look at the top of your library, put that card, and either leave it at the top or put it at the bottom. So if you like the card, you leave the card. If you don't like the card, you can shove it at the bottom of your deck and bye-bye. You don't have to worry about it. And now the actual, what it does is when this comes into play, you put this on their creature goes bye-bye. It gets exiled. It's not even there anymore. It's not even on the battlefield. It's put in a different area, taken away from the battlefield, and until this is removed, that creature is permanently exiled. And so this is a good one to have. Like, this is a definite creature removal. We'll talk about other forms of creature removal, but this one right here can be taken away. You can disenchant this. You can get rid of the enchantment. If they get rid of the enchantment, the creature comes back onto the field. So that is the one thing about this, is it is not like a forever thing. If they can destroy this, they can get their creature back. But that is the type of enchantment you're going to see. Ones that affect the field, ones that affect their creatures, ones that affect your creatures, and ones that can do removal. So, like I said, at the end of the day, that's mostly what your enchantments are. They're mostly going to hang around until they get removed, and they can do interesting things like buff, control opponents, creatures. They're really good. They're not a one-time deal sort of thing. They hang around. Now we're going to go to the next one. We're going to talk about planeswalkers because they're kind of hand in hand. So in essence, what planeswalkers are is they're like enchantments, but these enchantments can sometimes become creatures, but they represent a sort of creature and enchantment combo. Now, a lot of them cannot become creatures or attack directly, but they do have abilities and they do have a health pool. So we're going to take a look at the easiest one first. We're not going to go into all this craziness because when you get into here, we'll get to that in a second. Let's start basic. So right here, you see that it has hexproof. So we're like, what's hexproof? Hexproof, a player permanent with hexproof cannot be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. So They can't touch this guy with spells or abilities. They really can't do it. So their only option is to go after its health. And now that's where we're going to talk about the health. So at the bottom right here, you're going to see a 5. Well, that means this has 5 health. So if you have that 1/1 stray cat that we talked about and you attack this, this would go down to 4. When this hits 0, this, unlike an enchantment, goes away. So this can be attacked directly by creatures. Enchantments or not, they do not have a health pool. This does. Now, when you see this -2, well, you're like, well, -2 what? That's -2 of the health. So for getting rid of 2 health, so if we have 5 health, 4, 3, this would go down to 3 health, but then we get to use this ability here, which is create a 0/1 white wall creature token with defender. Now that's cool, but you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to use 2 and then 2 and then it's gone. And that is true. Teo is not your most amazing planeswalker. But there are other planeswalkers that can actually add to their health and subtract. And then we're going to talk about emblems. And emblems are like your Mac Daddy spells for these guys. It's like their ultimate ability. So we're going to go to a Johnny now. And a Johnny is more of a well-rounded planeswalker. So his +1 is you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control plus the number of planeswalkers you control. So in essence, for every creature and every planeswalker, you gain 1 life. So that is awesome. And then on top of that, not only is that a good, okay, like who doesn't want to gain life, but he also gains +1. So that means instead of taking away from his life, he actually adds to it. So if you go +1, you get 6. And you're like, damn, that's awesome. And so now his minus ability is -2, create a 2/2 white cat soldier creature token named a Johnny's Pridemate with whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on a Johnny's Pridemate. So that is a really good ability because he can gain life and then create creatures that get more powerful when you gain life. So if you can keep him around and keep alternating between these, you get some pretty insane creatures. Now, you're going to say, well, okay, what's this at the bottom 0 thing? That's another good example. That means you neither gain nor lose any sort of health for using this ability. But sometimes you have to read there may be conditions. If you have at least 15 or more health than your starting life total, exile a Johnny, Strength of the Prey, and each artifact and creature your opponent controls. So this is pretty much a board wipe. It's a board wipe, but you lose your Ajani. But in a situation where you're facing down an entire squad of creatures, it's very viable to use this and just wipe the board so that way you both start back at square one. And so that's pretty much your ultimate. Now let's go to a better example of an ultimate, because that's 0. That doesn't affect anything. Here is Gideon. So his ultimate, if you look down here, is -6. So exile, target non-land permanent. So that means you're going to reduce this by 6, his health, and you're going to be able to exile anything. And you're going to be like, well, his 4, that wouldn't work. How am I going to do that? Well, like I said, you have to use the plus abilities to build up to 6, and then you can use this once you've reached 6 or higher. So a lot of times you'll want to build this up to maybe 7 and then use it. And then, as long as your opponent doesn't have anything to deal damage, you could start building it back up and work your way to this ultimate again. But now we're going to talk about ultimates that affect the game forever. Well, not forever, but till the end of the game. For eternity. No, it's till the end of the game. So we're gonna go to that. And they're called emblems. So we're going to have to go to red. Okay, and Chandra is a good example of that. Okay, so let's find it. Doop-a-doop-a-doop-boo. All right, so here you go. So what are emblems? So what an emblem is it's pretty much, no matter what, if she dies or not, okay, the emblem stays. It's like an enchantment. It's a new type of enchantment, but it can't be removed by anything. Okay, so that means it doesn't count as an enchantment, but it stays on the field and works pretty much just like an enchantment. So Chandra's Awakened Inferno is +2. Each opponent gets an emblem with at the beginning of your upkeep. This emblem deals 1 damage to you. So pretty much gives your opponent a enchantment where they take 1 damage every turn. And you can use this every turn and stack these emblems on them, and they will deal damage to the opponent for 1 damage every emblem. And so emblems are good because they stay around even after the Planeswalker dies. Now, I don't see very many with the emblems now. I mean, it's kind of more of a rare thing to see with the emblems, but they still exist and they're still usable. And you would still wonder about that because you'd be like, what? Well, that doesn't explain that anywhere, what an emblem is. So now at least you will know, like, hey, this is what an emblem is and this is how it works. All right. So we're going to move on from Planeswalkers because, like I said, it's interesting, but we've got a lot to cover, and I don't want to bore you guys to complete that. So the next thing we're going to go to is instance and sorceries. And so the only difference between an instance and a sorcery is a sorcery can only be played on your turn. An instance can be played on your opponent's turn. So let's give an example of that. Let's give, I'm going to find 2 of the ones that kind of work the same. Okay? Well, actually, we're just going to talk about it from right here. Okay? So this is a sorcery. They both cost 1 red. So this one, gain control of target creature with converted 3 or less until the end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste until the end of turn. So you gain control of one of their creatures, a small one, for a turn, and you can attack them with it. Now, here's where you would be sad if you didn't know the difference between instance and sorcery. Say you're waiting and you've got your mana, your mountain untapped on their turn, and they put down a creature and they go to attack you. And you're like, yes, I've got this in my hand. I'm going to gain control of it. It's going to be awesome. Totally fucking the best strategy ever. Well, no, because it's a sorcery, so it can only be played on your turn. So that creature's still going to attack you. You can't take control of it until it becomes your turn. Then you can use this. Now, this is where it's different. This is what is called an instant. Now, say that same strategy comes into play, and they've got a 3/3, and they're attacking in on you, and you've only got a 1/1. And your creature is going to die if you block, and you're not going to be able to kill their creature. But you're like, you know what? I got this in my hand, and they're attacking. It's their turn. You can spend one of your unused mana during their turn, cast this on your creature, and now your 1/1 becomes a 3/3, and both creatures kill themselves. So the instance can be used on their turn or your turn. It's not just their turn. You can cast this on your turn or their turn, but the sorcery can only be cast on their turn. And so what instants and sorceries are, like we said, we talked about enchantments and we were like, oh, well, enchantments stick around. These do not stick around. Unless it says it permanently gets that, it does not. And it will normally specify the longevity of what is going on with the creature or whatever the instance or sorcery is doing. So we'll use this as an example. Target attacking creature gets 2/2 until end of turn. Each attacking non-human creature gains trample until end of turn. That lets you know until the end of your turn that this is going to happen. But it only lasts until the end of your turn or their turn when this was cast. Now, same thing here. Gain control of target creature with converted cost of mana 3 or less until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. So this only happens till the end of the turn when this was cast. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about damages. A lot of times you can deal damage to their creature, or you can actually damage the player themselves. Say they've got an 8/8 on the board, and that thing is huge, and you're like, oh my god, you've got 8 life, and they've got 2 life, and you know the next turn you're dead. But you happen to draw this shock right here. It says deal 2 damage to any target. That can be the player, that can be the creatures, that can be the Planeswalker. That means any target that can take damage, you can use this to damage them for 2. Now, there are other ones that, like I said, are going to make you sad if you don't pay attention to what you're doing with the cards. And you're like, oh, well, I just see damage, so that means I can damage anything. Like Reckless Airstrike is a very specific type of damage. And all right, guys, sorry about that. I'm back. So we were talking about Reckless Airstrike. So in essence, it says Reckless Airstrike deals 3 damage to target creature with flying. So pay attention to that, because that means that it can only deal the damage to the creature with flying. And now let's take a look at this sort of same thing with Red Cap Melee. Red Cap Melee deals 4 damage to target creature or Planeswalker. So if you go to use this on a player, sorry, can't do it. It is creature or Planeswalker only. So be very mindful of the target, and make sure to read the entirety of the text when you get these damage cards, because you might try and use it on a player, or you might try and use it on a Planeswalker, but it can only be used on a creature or a player or that. But now if you read something like this, shock deals 2 damage to any target. That means that you can pick and choose wherever you want it to go. It is not held back by needing a creature or a Planeswalker or a player directly. It can deal 2 damage to any target. So those are the more ones that you're looking for, the broader generalization. Now some of these have advantages to them. They might be cheaper, or they might deal more damage because it's very specific. So in some regards it's better, and a lot of regards I prefer the more generalized damage ones. Now let's talk about something else that we haven't talked about. An adventure, Charlie. Adventures out there. So adventure cards, what they are is they are a creature and sort of a pseudo spell combined. And so you must be thinking, oh my god, what the hell are you talking about? So if you look at the creature, we see it's a 1/1 and has flying. But then you look in this corner right here and you're like, what is this magical wall of text that is infiltrating my eyes, and how has it got a different cost here than up there? Well, so in essence, when you have this, you have effectively 2 cards in your hand. Okay? So what you can do is you can cast the sorcery of end of it. And what it does is it gives a creature +2, +1, and flying until end of turn. And then you can cast the creature end of it, which is the 1/1 flying. So how this would go, when you cast this, this would then go outside of your hand and be next to it, glowing in gold once you've casted the Gift of the Fae portion of the spell. And then you can cast the actual creature portion of this. And so it is kind of cool. It's 2 in 1. But now you must be asking, okay, well, I want to cast the creature version, and then I want to cast this. You cannot do that. It must be the sorcery or instant first, and then you can cast the creature. If you cast the creature, you cannot cast this again. So be mindful of that. You can either cast this first and then this, or you can cast this and not worry about this. But another interesting thing that people often forget, and they're like, oh my god, well, they don't realize it until it's happened. So we're going to talk about a different type of card. I know it must be filling your mind with crap. You're like, what is all this garbage? So if we go to blue, blue isn't interesting because it's more of control. So let's talk about countering a spell. So I want to cast my fairy guide mother, and I'm playing against a blue player. Well, that blue player can play Essence Capture or any counter spell that allows it, and it says counter target creature spell. Put a 1/1 counter on one creature you control. So we're not going to use this one because it is a creature spell, and we need to talk more about what happens on the other ones. So let's talk about, let's find here we go. Okay? So this is, once again, it's exactly like the damage, right? It can be generalized or it can be very specific. This is a specific. It can only target a creature spell. And so creatures are considered spells. And so now, when didn't say please, counter target spell. So this has no boundaries to it. It doesn't have to be an instant. It can be a creature. It can be any sort of card that your opponent's going to play. You can counter this on their turn when they cast it. So as long as you have 3 mana open, 1 mana of any color, 2 of blue, you can counter it as long as you have those untapped, unused on their turn. You can cast this on their turn and stop whatever spell they were doing. That's cool, right? That's a pretty cool thing. But now let's talk about it in the instance of an adventure creature card. Okay, so I go to it's my turn, and I go to buff my other creature with Fairy Guide Mother by using her sorcery adventure. And then they come and counterspell it. Well, that's okay, because I can still play my creature card, right? No. Your entire card goes into the graveyard. So where normally you can cast this and then also have the creature card, if they counter the actual spell version of the card, the entire card goes into the graveyard, whether you played the creature or not. So be mindful of that. That if they remove the card, and it's only by countering it. They can't, like, say if this makes tokens, we'll go to the green one, and say right here, she creates 3 bear tokens, right? But say they kill the bear tokens. They use something to kill the bear tokens. It does not stop you from being able to then cast the actual creature. The only time that that is affected is when it is counterspelled, because it never really even comes into play. You're trying to cast it, they deny it, it goes into the graveyard. So keep that in mind. There's, like I said, as you get into it, the beginning part of playing Magic is super easy, but the mastery of it is where it gets more complicated. But in my next video, I've done enough ranting for this one. In my next video, we're actually going to put the talk into practice, and it's going to be a lot more clear when you see the gameplay. So if you've liked the introduction and you want to see more of this, please like and subscribe, people. I will appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video, which leads us further to domination. I appreciate it, guys.